Hello, welcome back. I hope you are having a exceptional day. Um, Today, I'm going to be talking about art school, my thoughts on art school, whether I think it's a good idea to go to art school or not, depending on your interests, where you want to go with art as a career, how you want to go about that, how you want to go about building a brand, what kind of areas do you want to work in. Um, Before I get into that, I do want to announce I will be opening up a Patreon very soon where you are going to have some exclusive print options. I'm going to do a character request pool every month and do an illustration, and then that's going to ship exclusively to Patreon members every month. There will also be a tier for the high supporters who love my artwork and want to get a monthly character sketch done in my style. There will also be a couple lower tiers where you get like poll voting options and just access to work in process sketches and those things. So that that's the little Patreon announcement. I have the illustration that I'm doing in this video is one for one of the tiers on Patreon. So, what better way to segue into a little self advertising than the illustration featured? All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. Should you go to art school? That's the main question I want to address here. And I think in order to address that, we need to look at a few different questions to kind of get an initial footing. So, first, what do I want to do with art? Is it going to be more a freelance contracting, working for concept design or illustration for different studios for games or movies or TV shows? More of the like commercialized art field where connections are very important, which leads to the second question there. Do I need strong connections in order to get business and do what I want to do? And the third question, do I have and am I willing to spend a large sum of money to get those connections to put me in an advantage position? So, looking at that, there's a pretty common theme where I'm putting emphasis a lot on the connections you get from art school more than the art skills you learn there. And I think that's tried and true. And I think a lot of artists will share the same opinion there that you can learn everything from art school by yourself from your home using online courses, using free media, or just by studying work and from life. But I think there are some pros of artistic development that come with art school, namely the structure that you're given to learn the fundamental building blocks of art, the way that you're taught perspective and figure drawing and gesture and anatomy and all those things, how they work together, and the structure of assignments that force you to learn all the necessary skills to go and develop your style after art school. But I have heard a lot of artists saying they feel that art school took away their enjoyment of art and their creative ability in some ways. It kind of neutered them or hindered their capacity to do original work because they were so conditioned on studying that they kind of lost their initial passion for art. And I think that comes back with time, but with a balance, you can avoid having that kind of burnout and sense of loss altogether. I think generally my case is going against art school. I have not gone to art school, but I think that you can develop your fundamentals, you can develop your skills to the same level as people that went to art school without going. In a sense, my work is kind of a testament to that. And many, many other artists have not gone to art school and they're producing incredible illustrations and paintings, and their fundamentals are impeccable. Their ability to compose illustrations or convey movement through gesture is astounding. I luckily had the opportunity to study with a few different professionals in a more intimate setting. So that gave me a beginning footing when I was really young to start learning the fundamentals with assignment structure that forced me to do some things that I didn't necessarily want to do. And I think that can be really positive. Again, like I said before, that's one of the biggest benefits of art school. And I have not gone to art school, but I have taken a few classes from College of Creative Studies in Detroit, which is a very prestigious art school. And through those courses, I really took a deep dive into figure drawing and gesture, as well as perspective. I took drawing 1 and 2. And I think those were very formative courses for me at the time. But I think you could have gained the same benefit by buying a $200 online course from an artist that enjoys teaching, as opposed to spending a few grand on classes from a prestigious art school. The material that you're learning is the same either way. It's just where you're getting it from. So, what are some benefits of being self-taught? I think instead of focusing on the fundamentals and then being stretched thin to work on stuff that interests you and build your style, you can kind of do them hand in hand. It's a bit of a balance, and it takes a while to figure out what works for you. But being able to draw the things that you want to draw often and engage with that will make learning and building your skills much more, I guess, engaging. You will be more committed to it and more driven to continue to work on your, I think the balance of working on things that you're interested in helps to keep you motivated to do the more boring fundamental work. I know for me, as I'm doing a painting and I notice I'm struggling in an area with lighting, then I'll see, oh, I should go do some studies of lighting environments to give myself a better idea of how light interacts with this form. Stuff like that. When you find a need by working on what you want to work on, then you go do studies instead of learning all the fundamentals and then trying to apply them to something that you like. I think another benefit is kind of the timeline that you work on. You don't have to be on an insane art crunch where all you're living and breathing art. It can be more relaxed. You can start to build and develop style and skill while you are working full time. It doesn't have to be so intensive. It will take longer to go slowly, but I think you'll end up with just as good results. What are some of the drawbacks of being self-taught? What are some of the cons here? I think a big one is you don't have someone to turn to give you critical advice and to help you figure out where you're lacking. Now, of course, you can address that. There are lots of art websites, art Discord servers where people love to do drawing streams or gesture drawings. And from that, you can get critiques from artists that you follow that are better than you. Look at some of the Instagram profiles for artists you follow and see if they have a Discord. Consider joining it and just hanging out a little bit, try and interact with some of their other followers. And you might make an art friend who is better than you and is able to offer critiques. Or they'll have, a lot of times, art servers will have a critique me drawing section where you can just submit there and get critiques. So I'm sure a lot of you younger artists already know about all these resources. And I think my goal with this video is kind of to try to concrete some of your ideas. Maybe you're considering going to art school and this will sway you one way. And I hope it gives you a bit more confidence in your own ability to decide what to do. I think another drawback of being self-taught is there's not as many specific resources. Like at art school, there's going to be classes teaching you a specific skill that you need to or want to learn. But when you're teaching yourself, you may run into a dilemma, something you can't quite figure out, and there isn't a specific resource that you are aware of that you can use. And it might take a good bit of digging to find that resource that you need. I think an overarching idea is kind of freedom and responsibility. In the sense, freedom being power, and the tried and true saying, with power comes responsibility. And I think it's the same idea with being self-taught as opposed to going to art school. You have the power or the freedom over everything you do to build your own curriculum and learn at your own pace, but you're also responsible for yourself. You are the only one holding yourself accountable to continuing working and staying driven and committed to working on fundamentals and working on your style. So it's a difficult balance, especially if you're a busy person who is just getting into art or have been doing art for a few years but are still trying to really find your footing and get to a point where you have marketable work. I think with being self-taught, you also have the ability to, well, you have more time to do personal branding and try and be active online and find platforms to engage with people where you can share your work and get people excited to buy your work or contribute to you in some way. And I think that's another thing that's harder to do in art school because you're already working on art so much with a huge workload of different drawing classes or painting classes. You're not going to want to do more art than you're already doing. Uh, with I mean, maybe you will, but after a few months, you're most likely going through burnout because it's just not sustainable to do that. So I think that's a big benefit is that you can focus on the business side of art as a career aside from your practice of style and skill. I think that about covers everything. So, in quick summary, art school is mostly for connections, but it's a great structured way to build fundamentals while you're held accountable to do so. Is the way to go if you don't want to work in the commercial art industry. It's the way to go if you want to build your own brand and market yourself through the many digital platforms that there are. I think you can absolutely still make it in the commercial art industry being self taught, but your path might be a little more difficult being self taught and not getting those big connections with people in game studios, not getting internships, those kind of things. You won't have the same kind of background that big companies are looking for in an artist. So, I encourage you to weigh those bits of information that I've shared if any of it was new to you. I hope it helped. And with that, I love you all. Please take care.